without Susan, Suzanne, we're still not going to make it. I guess nobody has a phone number for Suzanne. I don't have her cell phone number, but just looked.
Mr. Chair, Trevor, do you not have quorum at this point?
We're short 3. So, Hannah, do we have quorum? 1.
So we need 5 to have quorum.
Thank you.
So, if that being said, if anybody, no, sorry, did I startle you, Dave? That being said, if anybody knows anybody else downtown who wants to join our committee, they can go through the process for the town. Have to submit an application. Now, who does that go to, Hannah? Do you know?
We usually do recruitment in September and March, I believe. And I'm just going to check on the exact number we need for quorum of 7.
So does the person have to own a business in the downtown core in order to be a member of this board?
Yes, they have to be employed in the BIA area.
Okay, which is like the 2 blocks of Main Street, is that, or Sykes Street?
3
3, okay.
on both sides, yeah. We don't include the gas station there at the Circle K, but from there right down to the bridge,
Oh, okay.
Berry Street. But we don't do the far side of Berry Street.
Okay, right. So from Barry till Parker, kind of, is that, or
Yeah,
Collingwood?
we don't include the gas station though at the corner.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
For whatever reason, that was taken out.
Probably because they're not normally a business that would want to promote the downtown or have a need to, I guess.
Yeah, that was before my time. I'm not even sure why that was excluded. That was okay. It's 10 after 8. Do you know if we have a, yes, Emma?
I just got word, so we should be fine with the 4 for quorum.
Very good. Thank you very much for that. So we'll call this meeting to order. Please note that we have the 3 people absent: Rachel, Suzanne, and Shannon. Okay. A moment of reflection, please. Okay, thank you. Disclosure of any pecuniary interest and general nature thereof. Very good. Just note about public participation again. Please, if anybody knows anybody that wants to come through the board, has anything to present, let us know ahead of time. We can schedule them in. Approval of last month's minutes. Would anybody like to, anybody review that? Tony approves. Now, Megan, are you on? Oh, David seconds. I see you're logged on, Megan, but can you hear us? You have to
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, yeah, okay, as long as you can talk.
Yes.
So approval of last month's minutes, Councillor Tony Bell first, David Allen second. I'll approve that. How about yourself, Megan? You good?
Yes, I'm good.
Thank you. Okay, so items for consideration this meeting are limited, which is good. We can get through a lot of stuff. David, did you want to give a review of the farmers market update for those events that are going on?
Sure. So I guess the first document in there is the event summary. And this is what I've been emailing to primary producers and food trucks, and just started that process of recruiting people for the event. So yeah, and then I put together a list of the people that I've already contacted, and I was hoping that the rest of the committee could help me fill that list in with other names, people that they know. I started with the primary producers because I feel that they are the sort of the anchor of our market. I feel like, at least once a week we would potentially have a number of people that were selling fresh produce and fresh products in the downtown core, which I think is pretty limited right now. So I feel it's kind of a public service in a sense to have these people in a walkable distance from lots of people in the town of Meaford. So that's why I started with those. Where we need to add to that is and I haven't done any work on it at all, is the other vendors that could participate in this. And that's the other vendors potentially could be on that hand-drawn map around sort of along the grassy knoll, to use that lack of good term. There's lots of booth space that we could use on the outside there. I did the math the other day. Chris Siri and I walked to that just to measure out the square footage so that we had an idea of what we were able to do. And it ends up that we have around the market we have just short of 3,000 square feet of grassy sections and around some trees, some patio sections, and so it almost basically doubles the amount of space that we have. So we have over 3,000 square feet for the farmers market section of the primary producer section, and then 3,000 for additional exhibits, and that can be local artisans, art, pretty much anything, any reason anybody would want to come set up a booth. That's what that could be. So that could really doubles the size of our space. So that covered. You can see the handwritten sketch, how we're going to expand or have the ability to expand. And then the next one was the spreadsheet. And I was hoping there'd be more members here so that we could put some names in that BIA volunteer column, just right beside the different ideas. So hopefully people will get a chance to look at this and respond, so we can add some names in there. So what we at this point, what we need to add for is the BIA volunteers in those different sections. And we need to continue and expand the reach of people that we're looking to have join the market. So for the key element of this is food. So we're looking for, start with BIA restaurants and food providers that can give us other food items that we can offer for lunch at the Friday market, and other items like that. Happy to talk one-on-one if you have any suggestions on how that should happen. Other progress since I wrote this, we met with the social media. Rachel and I did yesterday, and we have sort of broad strokes on how we can roll this out. Chris Seary and I met later in the afternoon with RTO 7, and they gave us some ideas on how they would also help us out and give us more social media support. So to get that going, we're sort of at the need for artwork, sort of the messaging and the artwork that goes with the program to get things going. So that's where we are with that. If anyone has some suggestions how we can get that done, that would be great. And the only other thing that really unsolved at this point is the looking at page 11 of the agenda. My crafty handwritten sketch of the layout is that bar that you see sort of blocking the edge of the farmers market. And this was an issue at last year's for the Meaford farmers market, and it will be something that needs to be addressed soon for us. Is we need to somehow get that barrier up on a weekly basis, and we've discussed the idea of putting up a cement barrier for that, and leaving it up permanently for the summer, I guess temporarily for the summer. We put it up just before the market, put some signage on it saying this side is going to be used for a market on a weekly basis. Please don't park there on Fridays. But at this point, there's no one has come forward with a solution how we're going to do that. So at this point, the only way it could happen is if we get somebody or some BIA member goes out there on Friday nights or Saturday or Friday mornings rather, and puts the barriers up. So in my mind, it's a major hurdle on making this all happen. Yeah, I think that's it. Right.
Okay, thank you. So what's your next step here right now? What would you like to see happen at this meeting, David?
Well, first we need to come up with a solution for the barrier, because if we can't close that section off, we need somebody to come forward and volunteer to close that off on a daily basis. That's 17 weekends that you got to be there. According to Jillian from the farmers market, last year she was usually out there at 6 o'clock on Fridays to block the area off. So without blocking it off, it just means there's always going to be cars, which means it's never actually going to be, you can't really use it as a market. So in my opinion, that's the very first thing that needs to be addressed.
Okay, can we ask Janet, how did, like last year, we did a section along the one side, permanent blocked it off with some planters. Is that something the town would be willing to do this year?
So last year we did a section along the top of the parking lot where we were able to block it off, and we had put planters in there, but we'd used that during the week also as a seating area. So that's why, and then what would happen on Fridays is that the farmers market folks would just push the benches and that to the side so that they could set up the farmers market the way they needed. In this setup, because you've reorientated it over towards Meaford Hall, and aptly so because of how it works from an operational standpoint, if you're going to have vehicles parked in there during the week, it's harder to put planters in there. And if you're going to permanently block it off, so I think most of the people in the BIA had gotten an email that I'd sent Dave before, just voicing the concerns about if you put concrete barriers down the middle of the parking spaces where you've got cars parking this way, there's just a concern that during the week, cars would bang into those barriers and there would be damage and liability issues that way. So that's why we said that if you can do temporary barriers, that's the better option for being able, as much as it's might be a struggle to constantly put them in and out, it gives you the space that you want, allows the parking to happen during the week with no conflict, and you have your Fridays to do the event. Putting any permanent barriers or planters in there just kind of creates some additional operational concerns from the parking standpoint. So one of the things that we had talked about at one of our meetings, as far as with Dave when he was trying to work on the operational piece, is perhaps, you know, if you're blocking off with concrete barriers, perhaps the BIA looks at maybe if it's a permanent block off of that area, that they can be programmed through the week for other activities as well. And that then, because otherwise, if you just block that off with the concrete barriers, you don't use it, then you've got this blank space during the week. So this is just some of the tricky areas that we're trying to figure out the best way to maneuver around.
Yeah, I mean, that I thought maybe was the idea, is block that off and use it for other events during the week for stuff that they were looking at. Make it more of an open space, same as last year, is what I was under impression was. But we're going to have that new parking at the old Smith Tire is going to be going shortly, is it?
Yes, yeah. So that will be the intention is that the Smith Tire parking would be up and available for additional parking this summer.
You don't know, have a ETA on that though?
As I understand that they've got quotes in, and I think that they're going to proceed with someone very shortly to actually get the work done. I think their timing is that you would actually have parking available by June.
Okay, any other comments on this going forward about the parking right now from anybody else?
Trevor, just while there's a lull, I was just going to mention, I know that Chris Scary had wanted to participate in a deputation during public participation, and I think he was missed. He had mentioned that he would like to speak to this item on the agenda as well as the video that's later in the agenda. So I don't know.
Do you want to bring him on now then?
Sure.
David, I'm not sure if Kim Ware mentioned to you that I was interested in participating. I don't know, I guess I'm not a BIA member, but I am interested in this market and being part of that committee as well.
Well, yeah, that was another, yeah, no, that's another comment. So volunteers does not have to be from BIA. If you need to look outside the BIA for volunteers to help organize this, David, I mean, that's definitely an option as far as we're concerned, because this is a town event. We're just organizing it. So we, like I said, to organize this parking, like I'd rather see a permanent go up, because no matter what you do, you get down there early in the morning, somebody was still parked there. So I'm just going to be here 15, you just mess things up. But that's just my opinion. If we can do something like that, that'd be ideal for me too, I think, for this situation. When would you need the barrier up, David?
I would say like the day before the event, so June the 10th. If, of course, if it allows us to start on June the 11th, but yes, June the 10th.
Yeah, that's as long as everything goes all right. Chris, you're on the phone now?
Okay, can you guys hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So yeah, David and I looked around, and I guess the one thing I want to speak to is these barriers. I know there's a concern with them being an obstruction during the week, but at the same time, if they're going straight up the center of the parking spots, then cars can come around from both sides and park. And I think part of the issue was, Janet, you were saying that there was a shortage of the concrete barriers as well, correct? And that you needed more concrete barriers to block off the patios because we didn't have enough, and there may be a challenge getting more. So if the BIA was to find their own barriers, and they were bright barriers, plastic ones. I'm just looking at ones online. I went online while you guys were talking, and found these traffic barriers. They're made of plastic, and you fill them with like water or sand. and they're super bright. You can get them in orange or yellow. And one thing that Dave and I talked about, instead of having a solid wall of barriers going down the center of those parking spots, is to have them intermittently, maybe every other parking spot, and then join them together with a 10-foot piece of bright PVC pipe. So any car that hits any of this stuff is not going to get damaged if they hit it, because it's going to be bright and very visible. But at the same time, it gives you that permanent start to blocking the parking lot. And from experience, I can tell you that you can't just go the night before to block off the area, because cars will be parked there, and they may be parked there that somebody could have driven away for the weekend and left a car there as part of a carpool, or they were at the Leaky having a couple of beers and they had to leave their car there. So you may I've ended up with cars in the middle of my parking lot for the summer concert series. So and that's with me going 2 days before and tagging cars on the Wednesday, tagging cars on the Thursday, like putting paper on the car saying we're doing a thing on Friday, and then putting the barriers up. So if we can find a way of putting up a permanent barrier there that is bright and safe and visible, and it's part of the market square budget, would the municipality be okay with that? And it's just one less component, and there'd be signage everywhere saying, there's a farm at the end of it, telling people that whatever, but it wouldn't be like a gray piece of concrete. It would be yellow or orange, and it would be made of plastic and full of water. So would that be something that the municipality could consider?
Yeah, like I said, I know there's all kinds of options out there, Chris, and that's something they'll have to look at, depending on what the cost is. But there's also flower boxes that could easily be used, I think, too. It's just whether we can get this and the town will approve blocking it off permanently from June on.
But it wouldn't be blocked. It's not being blocked off, Trevor. One end of it is open, so it's available for parking through the whole week except for Fridays, right? It's just the
okay. Yeah. Go ahead, Janet.
So I think what's kind of clear in this whole discussion is that we're still trying to figure out the operational piece of how this layout's going to happen, and trying to work through the different options and figuring out what's going to be the best option and optimize for everybody's needs. There's a couple pieces that I wanted to highlight. So Trevor, you'd mentioned that this is a municipal event. This is a BIA event that the BIA is planning.
We include the whole town, not just the BIA people. Sorry.
Okay. Yeah. Chris, you made some fantastic points, like looking at different ways and alternatives. And that's why, from the municipality side, I want to be at the table to talk about what those different options are, to figure out what we can do to make this happen. And I think that's the challenges and we knew this, going into it, that having the farmers market or a market at the market square, because of it being functionally as a parking lot, these are some of the hurdles that we're working through as we kind of evolve, and we're going to learn. I mean, as this kind of continues and wherever this goes and evolves, we're going to learn from it and make it better each year, but we might have a couple speed bumps along the way. The idea of signage, I think, is very critical, Chris. I think that's a great point. And being able to get the word out and the messaging out, and whether it's like directly in Market Square, on the different websites, once the BIA gets theirs up, once, through the chamber and the municipality, and fanning that information out to say this is what's happening in that parking lot area. That's all going to be key stuff. And that's all operational stuff that as we continue to meet to plan for June, that can come together. So we've got some pieces that still need to be worked out clearly, but they're not unsurmountable.
Great.
Okay, then Janet, going forward, can we have another quick meeting about that with you and David and maybe myself or Chris, or try to get something permanent? Like, if you want to put barriers out first thing in the morning at 6 o'clock, I'm up. It won't be right at 6, but it'll be shortly after by the time I walk down on a Friday. I could do that. But then again, it doesn't guarantee the parking spots unless we block it right off.
As far like absolute from a meeting perspective, Trevor, like we're meet every week, whatever it takes to help in the finalizing the plans for this.
Okay, so we can meet on that. Continue. We just need a solution for it. I was just putting it out there because we need to come up with something that's creative and and allows us to host our weekly meetings there. So I have two more things I wanted to add that I had forgotten.
Okay.
So I spoke with Jillian this week about, and once again invited the farmers market to join us as being sort of our anchor in the farmers market section. So I did write them an email this week, which I'm happy to share with everybody. But it basically said the reason that we are holding this and actually looking for primary producers is because our mandate is to do things in the downtown core, and we're not in any way trying to like steal their thunder or whatever. My first choice absolutely would have one market in town on Friday afternoons and not two. I think it's horribly distracting for everybody. So again, I rolled it out to them that it really would benefit everybody if they came and joined us. So I spoke at length with Jillian and I wrote her a letter to that effect. So I think they were having some more meetings. I remain hopeful that the farmers market joins us and that we can sort of, I mean, the energy and the number of people that already participate with their market would just be great help to us. So I really hope that works. And the other thing, as I forgot, if you look at my fancy sketch of the tentative layout, because the music is actually at the top, higher than the parking lot, beside the Meaford Hall, there's a great opportunity also for the music to be up and down the main street, in addition to being in sort of the market part of it, but also gives the restaurants that have the barriers, the temporary barriers on the street, to offer patio space that you could listen to music on. So I think there's an opportunity there for Leaky, the kitchen, and Jill to promote the fact that if you really like the music and the music's on, you can come have a coffee or have some lunch or something, and it's another. I didn't realize it till after we were sort of walking around, but it's another great benefit for those restaurants on the main street. So every Friday afternoon they'll have live music.
Yeah, I do like that location, the music. I think it'll be good. And you have permission from the town hall to use that room too, right? Down below?
Yeah, I'll be serving coffee from that on most afternoons. So you'll be able to get coffee from them. The patio is definitely usable for us too. And
so they know.
Sorry, I just have a question. Is there a reason why it's finishing at 4 and not continuing on till say like maybe 6? Just because a lot of people work till 4 or 5 o'clock, and then that's going to limit the number of people that can participate or come, support the vendors.
Yeah, the track record last year for the farmers market was it was dead by 3 or 4 o'clock. There was no activity after 4 o'clock. So people weren't coming downtown afterwards. What we found was we were setting up at 2 and running till 6, and people started setting up on their own at 1 o'clock or even earlier than that. So that there wasn't any activity. There wasn't any interest in later in the day. And the other aspect of this is to get food. And the idea is that people could cruise over, grab lunch, walk through the market, and then get on and then head off for the day.
Right. Okay.
Am I still on?
Yes, you are, Chris.
I am. Yeah. So, and then to answer your question, the plan was to, at first, on long weekends, the music was going to continue on later. But in talking to Susan, I think there's a budget that we can keep the washrooms open at Meaford Hall later and extend the music a couple of hours every Friday. That's one of the things we're talking about doing. So at the very least, even if there's not a market happening after 4 o'clock, there would be music playing and possibly some seating in that area so that people can come and sit down there. One of the challenges for the patios when it's nice out is they're very limited in space. And if the restaurants in the summer are still not going to be allowed to have customers indoors, it'll be nice to have another option for people to go and sit. Last year, it was just tables across the street, but if there's tables and music, and possibly if Meaford Hall is open and they decide they want to open a bar at their bar at the terrace, people could take takeout across the street, sit on the terrace. I think they'll be allowed about 10 or 12 people on the terrace with distancing. And other people could spill out into the parking lot while the music is still playing till around maybe 6 o'clock or something. And hopefully we can do that every Friday, again, depending on a bunch of things. But that was my vision, to have it every week instead of, because, you know, if it's only 4 weeks and it rains on 2 of those long weekends, then we only get music twice, right? So
Yeah.
if we program it every Friday, then we have more chance of things happening. And if it's really goes really well and there's more budget or more sponsors, we can put music on Saturdays too, maybe in the same spot, even though there's no market, you know.
Okay.
That there's just
Good.
that, yeah.
Perfect. All right. So, David, Janet, do you want to get a walk down to the market square, look at the area, discuss things? What do you think this will take to get something and we can do? Janet? Sorry.
No, it's good. Definitely continue our meetings and discussions. I'm interested to find out as far as with David's discussions with the farmers market group too, on where that goes, because certainly if they come to the table and they're looking and they bring vendors, that will also alter your layout. And that's going to also impact some of the decision making here of what the overall farmers market looks like, because clearly you've got two things you've got to address: is the spacing based on requirements through health unit, and then the number of vendors that you can accommodate. So originally with this current layout that Dave has within the Market Square area, there was discussions between 10 to 12 vendors. And even with proposing vendors around in the grassy knoll areas, again, we still have to even look at the details of that, because we have to make sure that from a spacing standpoint that if you set up in those areas, it's not impacting people's passing by. And again, we're meeting safety regulations as far as making sure that people are going to be safe and healthy, bottom line. So I think my proposal is that we've got to meet, we got to talk about these things and really roll up the sleeves to go through each concern, come up with some solutions that optimizes for everyone. And let's figure out how much space really is truly needed. And if more space is needed, then that has to happen as a discussion. And that looks like, and that might come up with some new solutions on how that gets delineated off.
Next week, 27th, 26th, 28th?
Next week, I am actually not in the office, but let's figure out what we can do. I'm available. Let's put it that way. Whatever we have to do to get this going.
How about yourself? All right, so let's move on for now. We'll talk about that later. David, if you want to arrange something with Janet and myself, anybody else want to be involved with that, you think?
I'd like to be there too as well.
Okay, so Chris, moving on, let's do your adventures in Grey Bruce right now. You're going to do that one, storytelling? Give us an update?
Yeah, I sent you, Trevor, an email, and I sent Janet an email as well. These times we're going through are pretty crazy, and so there's a lot of on and off as far as the promotion of the series. However, we did manage to complete a pretty good video showcasing the municipality of Meaford along with a local musician. I don't know if you had a chance to see the video, Trevor. I know Janet has and Jen has, I think. Because of the conditions while we were filming, we weren't able to really interact with any tour operators and make a video that would be good to use when COVID is over. So, the tricky part is we could have gone into places and sat with servers wearing masks or tour operators wearing masks. But the idea of doing that and then having a video we spend so much time on not being able to be used after COVID is over didn't make sense. So we focused more on doing things on our own. And the series was supposed to be 4 videos in the winter. However, because of COVID and all the shutdowns and stay-at-homes, we managed to do 1 video. And in speaking with the RTO now, the plan is to do 1 video for every season. So presently we're working on we were working on a spring one featuring Bruce County. For the most part, we started by spending a few days at the at the Cape Croker sugar bush maple. They have a maple syrup making operation there, and then the plan is to get more spring-like footage and experiences. Now, the promotion was supposed to start this winter with RTO, and we still have that commitment from them for a $3,000 social media campaign. However, now is not the time to be running a social media campaign inviting people to beautiful municipality in Meaford or anywhere else in the area, and they've cut all their promo online. You won't see anything from Bruce Gray Simcoe at the moment. So what the plan is to push that forward and continue with these videos. We'll make a spring one, a summer one, and a fall one. And the idea is probably the summer one will be a bit of Simcoe if it's safe to go in there. And then the fall will feature all 3 counties, kind of circle back and do some highlights from everywhere. And at any point during these video releases, which we are still releasing on our own platform, the RTO will step in with their ad campaign when it's safe to do so and start that $3,000 ad campaign promoting all 4 videos, on which the BIA logo will be and municipality logo will be on as sponsors and take advantage of that advertising. So to do it now would be almost not reckless, but you know what I mean? That doesn't make sense to promote those videos now. But I can tell you by just putting it up on our own Facebook page, it's got, I think, about 2,800 views without doing any promotion. So, and that's the long story. Have any of
Thank
you
you very much.
Have you had the chance to see the video at all, or?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, looks good.
Excellent.
Very good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any questions from that by any board members? We're good. Thank you, Chris.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Okay, moving on.
Thank you.
Reports from the chair. So we're still working on getting the Meaford BIA webpage up. Rachel's going to take the lead on that, and I'll be a second. She's going to try to get all the fine details done with Vic Mitchell on that, and hopefully we'll have that launched quickly to link to everybody else's website. That being said, if anybody downtown, talk to the merchants, make sure they got their form in. If they need another form to get registered on their website, it'd be greatly appreciated to maintain a list. Councillor Bell, did you have a report from council?
Oh, thanks, Mr. Chairman. I would like to say that I've always supported your focus.
Okay, you're very breaking up there, Tony. Sorry.
Okay, is that a little better?
No, Tony,
No.
sorry. It's Derek. You're going to have to log off and log back in quickly. Your audio's cutting up digitally again.
Okay, we'll move on. Report from the council staff. Report from staff. Anything to add to that, Janet?
We've already talked about, as far as the parking lot, we've talked about Market Square. The other update I have is the outdoor patio. Did you want me to speak to that now? Because I know it's item 7.3.
Yep, go ahead.
Okay, so for the outdoor patio, we're continuing to work on our arrangements to get that in place. Currently, with the provincial order in place, there's no outdoor dining until May 20th based on their order. So originally, where we were hoping to get the patios, if you recall last year, we got the patios up and running in June, and that was just a case of circumstance of trying to figure out a way to respond to COVID and support restaurants and businesses in the downtown. This year, knowing kind of what we were going into, we had an opportunity to plan with timing of hoping to get the patios up and going shortly after the beginning of May and be able to utilize that outdoor space. The current lockdown has halted that or paused that until the end of May, but it means that we can still continue to plan and make sure that we can get things in place that in hopes that when we come out of the lockdown, patios will be available and the restaurants will be able to utilize them. So we have, as I understand right now, we have the same restaurants that will host outdoor patios as last year. It'll be in our same section along Sykes Street. I have looked at organizing the layout of the patios slightly different so that the restaurants last year, where maybe some of the patios were slightly off skew from the front of the restaurants, This year, we're trying to get them a little bit more lined up, so layout they're more directly in front of the restaurants to help in the operations of being able to move between the restaurant and the patios, as well as being able to see and have better sight lines to the patios in hopes that that will help in the restaurant operations. So in skewing or slightly reorientating that, I am looking at where last year we kept one parking space close to Nelson and Sykes Street intersection in front of community living. This year I'm looking at that we would lose that parking space in order to shift the patios. But that space, we are going to be able to protect it because in talking with community living, that's a spot that they like to use for loading and unloading for folks coming in and out and deliveries that they get. We're able to accommodate that actually right around the corner on Nelson Street. Our bylaw team has been really good working with them, and they've come up with a solution. There's an accessible parking space there. We don't want to lose the accessible parking space, but what we're able to do is actually shift that accessible space just one to the west. There's 2 parking spaces there. It'll still be available. It'll be one to the west, and then the first parking space will be a loading space. And I guess that's an area that generally our bylaw has observed higher use as a loading space. So it actually accommodates a need that already exists while protecting for accessibility. So I'm hoping that we're trying to check the boxes of all the needs of the businesses in that area to be able to achieve the patios, but also meet the businesses that don't have patios, their needs. And we're continuing ahead with our plans. And right now, currently organizing for getting the barriers installed and the timing for that installation, and then working with each of the restaurants and getting their plans in place to get the installations in. Any questions on that?
No, thank you. Pam, you want to give your little Downtown Association and Chamber of Commerce, how you work?
Sure. So
oh, sorry, this is Pam Tumper. She's actually on the board for the Meaford Chamber now. She's taking Kim's spot. I meant to introduce you before it hopped in my mind, but sorry. If you want to do a little bit of introduction, you're on the board for the Meaford Chamber.
Yes. So I just joined as a board member in March, and looking forward to getting involved in the community a lot more. So Kim passed on these points for me to bring up. So the annual general meeting is the 26th of April at 6 p.m. and the guest speaker is Dr. Era. Excuse me. And that'll be online Zoom meeting. Excuse me. The annual community awards is open for nominations. There's lots of sharing on Facebook, so if you see it, please share it. So you can get the application form or the nomination form on the chamber website, and the final date is April 30th. So they're not receiving a lot of nominations, so Kim's asking to really try to help promote this in the next week. Excuse me. So yeah, the other thing with that is that any person in Meaford can nominate a business. It's not just other businesses. So any citizen can nominate. Excuse me for a sec. The online auction will be running in June. And she says, please help us get with a good or service that we can use for the fundraising event. So we're reaching out to all the businesses for donations. The Apple will be open this year. And if you know any bright, enthusiastic people who might be interested in joining our team, please direct them to contact Kim. Her email is admin@meafordchamber.ca. So they're looking to hire a couple of students potentially, I guess. Could be anybody, but yeah, somebody that knows the area would be great. And the Meaford Dragons is already booked in this year for a live event at Meaford Hall on November 4th. And of course, that will be tentative depending on COVID. Hopefully it's over by then. Yeah, and that's all she had for me. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Pam. What's your business, Pam? Again?
Excuse me, what?
What business do you run in Meaford here with your son?
Gray Noise Entertainment.
Gray Noise, so, your son, right?
Yeah, my son's Devin Hannum, and yeah, we're a music recording studio and entertainment business. Yeah.
Very good. Okay, Tony, are you back online? Is your volume fixed?
You can try again.
Oh, no.
Okay.
Did you, quickly important, anything you want to say or no? Okay, thank you. Sorry. Okay, anything else from anybody else? New points brought up. We have 10 minutes left, 9 minutes left. Any questions?
So I just have a couple of things, Trevor, if you don't mind.
Sure, go
Again,
ahead.
I'm not sure how this format works, but it's about like, is this where we meet to bring ideas to do things for the downtown as well, or like improvements that we might like to see or stuff like that?
Yeah, so this is a kind of a round table. We try to keep this to an hour because I have work and a lot of people have to go to work. So if there's anything that's going to take a bit of time, email them into Hannah and we can
Okay.
definitely add it to the agenda with any ideas or anything you need to bring up to people.
Okay.
Was there anything quick you wanted to bring up, Pam?
So one of the things, real quick, yeah. So I don't know if people have noticed, there's one, they're big maps that are mounted like on some kind of a foam board, I assume it is, but there's one at the Meaford Pet Convenience and there's one on the side of Grandma Lamb Building. I think there might be one at the Circle K, but it's a big tourist information map. And all the ones here are of Owen Sound. Like I've seen at least 3 or 4 around Meaford, and like the places I've just mentioned, I know for sure have them. So I'm wondering if we can do some kind of initiative to have one of those of Meaford. And I'm just going to hold up like this little map of Meaford that the chamber has. So these are the Meaford maps. And then the backside shows like kind of the area and then what part is Meaford. And then the ones that you see, if anyone's interested taking a look, at the Pet Convenience for sure, have around the outside edge all the businesses that have contributed to sponsor the project. And so it's an advertising for the business, it's a tourist information for visitors, and makes, you know, the chamber and the town, I think, a lot more visible and informative. One could be published at the Apple, just an idea.
Yep,
that I have.
we know what you're talking about. That has been discussed here before. I don't know if it was last year or a year before. And that just got pushed to the wayside because it was a cost factor in getting it mounted. Now that has been brought to the chambers, took initiative with the town to try to get boards at Memorial Park and at the Apple to display the town a bit better for visitors as well. So if we can, you want to send information, if you have any information on that and send it to Hannah, we can add it definitely to next month's agenda. And anything else? Be greatly appreciated.
No, I'll cut it short, but I think a lot of the stuff I think I want to be involved is that Market Square thing. So yeah, David, if you can inform me of the next meeting, and yeah, I just want to be more involved in the whole community. Thanks.
Okay, great, thank you. Anything else from anybody? Yes, Janet.
Just if it helps with the conversation with Pam's suggestion with the mapping, there is a large map right now on a board right by Market Square. So just between where the flagpoles are, close to where the flagpoles are. And that map, we know it's an opportunity to update that map. And actually from the municipal side of things, we're actually working on that right now. We're working on our community guide and we're updating that map. Kim from the chamber has been involved with our team in looking at what different things that we want to identify on that map as part of our improvements. And we're looking to put that into our community guide. But that map, once it's created, is also something that we can transfer into putting onto large boards. And that board in by Market Square is one of the ones that we're looking at, that we can place that there. And then these other event boards that you're talking to, Trevor, that we're working with the chamber on. So those are event boards where people can put up their notices of things and activities are going on, and certainly a smaller version of that map could be available on those boards and provide that opportunity. So some of that stuff's already happening. The chamber, when they were looking at doing a map, I think they were looking at something that was fairly graphic and intensive. So this might not be graphic intensive, but it will serve the purpose.
Very good, thank you. Alrighty. Anything else before we adjourn? No, we're good. So our next meeting is May 19th, virtual, of course. Hope everybody stays safe during the lockdown, and I call for adjournment. Anybody want to first it? First, David, second? Okay, Tony and Megan, you agree?
Yes.
I agree. Thank you very much, everybody. And Janet, if David, just get together with that meeting, and I can meet next week. I'm off next week as well, so I can have any free time.